Welcome to our channel, $1,000,000 Made Easy. On this channel, I develop spreadsheets to help, number one, the young adult who's first starting out, number two, the middle-aged person who's trying to catch up investing, and finally, number three, the retiree who wants to know how much he can safely withdraw and have his money last. Folks, in other words, I developed a channel to help most everybody. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just somebody who loves numbers and loves great spreadsheets to show people what they might have in the future. Let's look at this question. Can saving $100 a month, catch that, $100 a month, make you a millionaire? Well, let's run a spreadsheet just to show you. Let's say you have absolutely nothing saved, but you can save $100 a month, and you increase that by just 3% a year. So $100 a month the first year, 103, and so on, you're barely going to even notice changing from 100 to 103 and so on. But you do that over a long period of time, and I want to show you, we're going to look at from a 36 to a 45-year period. What would have happened using the numbers for the last 100 years? These are the returns for the S&P 500. We're even going to include the worst case scenario of the Depression type years. Figuring the years going ahead aren't going to be any worse than what happened during the Depression years. If we look at these numbers, folks, I think you're going to be amazed. I'm going to go all the way out to the 45-year column because that's the most extreme, obviously. Say a 20-year-old could save $100 a month. Where would they be over a 45-year period? This black row right here is how much money you'd put in over each of these time periods, going from 36 to 45. Look at that, over a 45-year period, you'd put in $111,000 over that 45-year period. These are the returns. If you had returns like 1925, these are the returns going forward. In that case, after 45 years, you'd have $1.607 million. This is actually summary for each of the years. If I click on this, and you can see that 1.607 right there is right there. If I click on the next year, 1926, it'd be 1,553,000. You do that for every single year. And these are the returns you're going to see. Now, I want you to notice something. This red row right here is the worst case scenario for these time periods. Folks, the worst case scenario in the last 100 years for a 45-year period, you would have over $1 million. Remember our question? Can saving $100 a month make you a millionaire? If you have the time, if you can get compounding work for you. And again, folks, this is in the worst case scenario. We're using Depression type years. I've written this spreadsheet to change this. Let's go ahead and change this to 19. Let's just look at numbers since 1970. As soon as I hit return, it's going to change all these numbers. You're going to see this $1 million. Again, that's the worst case scenario because we're using Depression type numbers. If we go from 1970 on, which is the last 54 years, look at how this changes. The worst case scenario, $1.448 million. 44 years, 1.256, the worst case scenario. And even 42 years, 908,000 in the worst case scenario. If we use the numbers from 1970 on, we don't use them returns for the Depression years because some people saying that's never going to happen again. But just in case it does, I like to include those numbers. But if we use 1970 numbers going on, we could have a bad couple of years like we did in 73, 74. And we definitely can see what can happen from the year 2000 to 2008 when we had 4 down years, including this one right here. But folks, that just shows you $100 a month over a long term. If you can do it for 45 years, even if you can do it for 40 years, look at the kind of numbers we're talking about. And folks, if I just change this to 150, that's going to increase that by 50% more, which would put this one over $1 million. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's the numbers, 50% more. You're up over $1 million in a 40-year period. So if somebody age 25 maybe goes to college and then starts saving $100, in this case, $150 a month, look where they'd be after just 40 years. Worst case scenario, $1 million. It's showing this one right here. 1935 numbers are 930,000, but if I change it, this is just from 1970 on. If I change this back in 1925, which includes the Depression years, then it's going to include that 930,000 right there. So that's all we did is change from 1970 numbers and 1925 numbers. For those of you that want to take into account what might happen if we have a Depression type future going forward, then in that case, you'd still have close to $1 million with this $150 a month, increasing that by 3% a year over a 40-year period. This is the kind of numbers in the worst case scenario. Again, the median's here and the highest you'd see is across there. But that's what we do on this channel, showing that's why we called it $1 million made easy, because it's not that hard if you get in it early. If you have 40, 42, 45 years until you retire, these are the kind of sums. Now, if we go down here 36 years, you're probably going to save a little bit more to get to $1 million. Again, the red row is the worst case scenario. But folks, that's what we do on this channel. We just love doing it. Please consider subscribing. Please share this channel with others. Let people know about this channel. Let them know that there's a channel out there that will run numbers and point out different observations, that it doesn't take that much to get to $1 million if you have the time. If you have the time, you can see graphs like this. This is a 35-year graph for somebody saving $250 a month. For just 35 years, if we had 1929 returns, again, 1929 returns were the Depression type returns, and yet still, in that case, you would have over $2 million if we had returns. That's saving $250 a month. But again, that's what we do on this channel. Thanks so much for watching.